The day the galaxy banned human warships began like any other political meeting. But before the day ended, it would become one of the most dangerous decisions in galactic history. Far above the shining world of Celestia Prime, the capital planet of the Galactic Council, thousands of ships floated in orbit. Every powerful empire had sent ambassadors, guards, and fleets to witness the announcement. Inside the massive council chamber, representatives from hundreds of alien civilizations filled the room. Tall insectoid diplomats stood beside armored reptilian generals. Floating energy beings hovered silently near the ceiling. Robotic envoys blinked with soft lights as they recorded every word. In the center of the chamber stood a circular platform where the council speaker prepared to speak. The topic of the meeting was simple. Humanity. For the past 30 years, humans had become one of the most unpredictable forces in the galaxy. When humanity first entered galactic space, the older civilizations believed they would be weak. Humans were young, their technology was strange, and their military traditions were different from the ancient empires. But that belief had quickly proven wrong. Human warships were fast, heavily armored, and built with unusual designs that confused alien tacticians. Their fleets used strange strategies, unpredictable maneuvers, and weapons that many older civilizations had never considered building. In only a few decades, human fleets had destroyed pirate kingdoms that had existed for centuries. They had defended weaker alien colonies against raiders. And in one famous battle, a single human carrier group had forced an entire imperial fleet to retreat. Many civilizations quietly respected humanity. But the most powerful empires felt something else. Fear. At the center of the chamber, the tall silver-skinned council speaker raised a glowing staff. The room slowly fell silent. Representatives of the Galactic Council, the speaker announced. Today we vote on a measure that will protect the stability of the galaxy. Large holographic screens lit up across the chamber. A massive human battleship appeared in the projection. The ship looked brutal and powerful, covered in thick armor and long railgun cannons. Murmurs spread through the audience. The speaker continued. For too long, the Terran species has expanded its military power without regulation. Their warships are increasingly dangerous and unpredictable. Several ambassadors nodded in agreement. The Council believes that no young civilization should possess such destructive fleets. Therefore we propose a new law. The holographic text appeared across the chamber. The Terran Warship Restriction Act. The law was simple. Humanity would no longer be allowed to build new warships. Existing Terran military ships would have to be dismantled within 10 standard years. Any human vessel carrying heavy combat weapons would be declared illegal. Violators would be treated as hostile forces. The chamber filled with quiet whispers. Some civilizations felt relief. Others looked uncomfortable. Across the room, the human delegation sat silently at their table. There were only 3 Terran representatives present. Unlike many alien diplomats, they wore simple dark uniforms without decorations. Their leader was Ambassador Daniel Reyes. Reyes listened to the speech with calm eyes. He did not interrupt. He did not argue. When the speaker finished explaining the law, the council began the vote. One by one, the great empires cast their decision. Green lights appeared across the chamber. Support. More lights appeared. Support. Only a small number of civilizations voted against the proposal. Within minutes, the final result appeared above the chamber floor. The law had passed. The council speaker raised the staff again. By order of the Galactic Council, the construction and operation of Terran warships is now banned. Some alien diplomats even applauded. They believed they had just prevented a future galactic war. The speaker turned toward the human delegation. Ambassador Reyes, the council expects Terran cooperation. The entire chamber watched the humans carefully. For a long moment, Reyes said nothing. Then he slowly stood up. We understand the decision of the council, he said calmly. His voice carried clearly through the chamber. Humanity will respect the law. Many ambassadors relaxed after hearing those words. But the human ambassador had not finished speaking. He looked across the chamber at the hundreds of alien representatives. And then he said something that many of them would remember years later. However, humans are very creative when solving problems. The room fell quiet again. Reyes gave a polite nod. Then the Terran delegation turned and walked out of the chamber. No one stopped them. Most of the council members believed the matter was finished. They thought humanity had accepted the new order. But deep inside Terran space, thousands of engineers were already studying the new law very carefully. And before long, humanity would find a way to follow the rules, while completely changing the meaning of war. After the vote, the galaxy believed the problem was solved. The most powerful fleets in the galaxy, human warships, would soon disappear. The great empires felt safer knowing that humanity could no longer build dangerous battleships. At first, everything seemed to go exactly as the council expected. Across Terran space, massive orbital shipyards began dismantling human military vessels. Old battle cruisers were taken apart piece by piece. Heavy railguns were removed. Missile systems were stripped away. Entire fleets slowly vanished from the star charts. Alien observers watched carefully. Many intelligence ships remained near Terran space, recording every movement. And from what they could see, humanity was obeying the law. Human warships were disappearing. The council was pleased. For the first time in decades, the powerful empires believed they had successfully controlled humanity. But they misunderstood one important thing about humans. Humans rarely fight rules directly. Instead, they study them. Years passed quietly. Human fleets stopped appearing near conflict zones. Terran military patrols vanished from outer colonies. Trade ships replaced battle groups in most systems. To many alien civilizations, humanity looked peaceful. Some even believed humans had finally become a normal trading species. Human cargo ships began traveling across the galaxy more often than ever before. Huge freighters carried minerals, technology, and food between distant systems. Mining vessels worked deep inside asteroid fields. Scientific ships explored distant stars. Everything looked normal. But slowly, strange reports began appearing in intelligence databases. A merchant freighter had engines stronger than most military cruisers. A mining ship carried industrial lasers powerful enough to slice through asteroid cores. A Terran research vessel was testing a new shield system that could survive extreme radiation storms. None of these things were illegal. None of these ships were classified as warships. Still, a few alien analysts started asking questions. Why did cargo ships need engines that powerful? Why did mining vessels require shields that strong? Why were Terran industrial lasers becoming larger every year? Some reports even suggested that many Terran civilian ships were being built inside the same shipyards that once produced warships. But whenever these concerns reached the Galactic Council, they were quickly dismissed. The law is clear, council officials said. Human warships are banned. Civilian vessels are allowed. Humanity was following the law perfectly. There was nothing the council could punish. 10 years passed. The final deadline of the law arrived. According to official records, the last Terran warship was dismantled exactly on schedule. The Galactic Council proudly announced that the Terran fleet no longer existed. Across the galaxy, many empires celebrated the decision. But inside human space, the reaction was very different. Deep within massive orbital shipyards, new vessels were already under construction. They did not look like warships. They were labeled as cargo carriers, mining platforms, and exploration craft. Their designs followed every rule written in the council law. But hidden inside their hulls were strange features. Reinforced armor plating. Unusually powerful engines. Energy systems far larger than civilian ships required. And equipment that many alien engineers would have found suspicious. Human engineers worked day and night building these new ships. Whenever someone questioned their design choices, the answer was always simple. These are civilian vessels. And technically, that was true. The ships had no official weapon systems. They had no military classification. They carried no warship registry codes. To the Galactic Council, humanity looked peaceful. But the truth was far more complicated. Because while the galaxy believed the Terran fleets were gone, human engineers were quietly building something entirely new. Not warships. Something far more dangerous. Something that would change the balance of power across the galaxy. And when the next galactic crisis arrived, the Council would finally understand what humanity had really done during the silent years. For 10 quiet years, the galaxy believed the Terran fleets were gone. Humanity traded, explored, and mined resources like any other peaceful civilization. Their ships filled trade routes and scientific missions across dozens of star systems. But peace in the galaxy rarely lasted long. Far beyond the outer borders of the Galactic Council, something dangerous had been growing. The Carthel Dominion. The Carthel were a brutal warrior species from a distant region of space. Their empire was built on conquest. Entire star systems had already fallen under their rule. Worlds that resisted were destroyed without mercy. For years, the Council ignored the warnings. The Dominion was far away. It was not their problem. But then one morning, everything changed. Emergency signals began flooding into the Galactic Council network. Colonies along the outer rim were under attack. Huge Carthel fleets had crossed into Council territory. Their ships were enormous and heavily armed. Their tactics were simple and terrifying. They overwhelmed every defense system in their path. One by one, border systems fell. Planets burned. Defense fleets were destroyed. Within only a few weeks, the Dominion had captured more than 20 star systems. Panic spread quickly across the galaxy. The Galactic Council gathered for an emergency meeting. Inside the same chamber where humanity had once been restricted, the ambassadors now looked frightened. Their military forces were struggling to stop the invasion. Many of the strongest fleets had been reduced during years of peace. Others were simply not powerful enough to face the Dominion warships. The Carthel fleets were advancing deeper into Council space every day. Soon they would reach the core worlds. For the first time in decades, the powerful empires of the galaxy felt helpless. Finally, one ambassador spoke the truth that everyone was thinking. We need the Terrans. The room became silent. Everyone remembered the old law. Human warships were banned. The Council had forced humanity to dismantle its fleets. Now, when the galaxy truly needed them, those fleets no longer existed. But the situation was desperate. The Council had no other choice. An emergency message was sent to Earth. It arrived at the Terran capital within minutes. Inside the Council chamber, the human ambassador, Daniel Reyes, appeared on the large holographic screen. He looked calm. Almost too calm. The Council speaker spoke first. Ambassador Reyes, the galaxy is facing a major invasion. The Carthel Dominion is destroying our outer colonies. Millions of lives are at risk. Reyes nodded slightly. We have seen the reports. Another ambassador leaned forward urgently. We need your fleets. Humanity once had the strongest warships in known space. We ask for your help. For a moment, Reyes said nothing. Then he gave a small, polite smile. I'm afraid that may be difficult. The chamber erupted with angry voices. What do you mean difficult? You must help. This invasion threatens every civilization. Reyes raised a hand calmly. Please remember, the Galactic Council banned human warships. The room suddenly became quiet again. The ambassadors looked at each other uncomfortably. The law they created had trapped them. Without Terran fleets, the Dominion might conquer half the galaxy. Finally, the council speaker spoke again. The council is willing to reconsider the law. Humanity can rebuild its fleet. Reyes shook his head slowly. That will take many years. The speaker's voice grew tense. Then what do you suggest? Reyes leaned slightly forward. Perhaps the council misunderstood something. What do you mean? The human ambassador's eyes showed a small spark of amusement. Humanity no longer owns warships. Several ambassadors sighed with frustration. But Reyes continued. However, we do have cargo ships. Confused murmurs spread across the chamber. Mining vessels. More whispers followed. Exploration craft. The ambassador stared at him, unsure where this conversation was going. Then Reyes finished his sentence. And we have a very large number of them. Before anyone could ask another question, new signals appeared on the council's tactical display. Hundreds of Terran ships were leaving human space. Trade vessels. Industrial carriers. Research ships. Freighters. Thousands of them were moving toward the war zone. None of them were warships. At least, not officially. Across the galaxy, fleets of ordinary-looking human ships began accelerating toward the battlefront. And the Carthel Dominion had no idea what was coming. The first Terran ships arrived at the battlefield 3 days later. The system of the Lora Gate had already become a graveyard. Broken stations floated in orbit around the blue planet below. Pieces of destroyed warships drifted slowly through space. The Carthel Dominion fleet controlled the entire system. Hundreds of massive warships surrounded the planet. Their black hulls looked like dark mountains in space. Long weapon arrays glowed with energy as they prepared for the next assault. The few remaining Council defense ships were barely holding their position. Their shields were weak. Their ammunition was nearly gone. Everyone expected the final attack to come at any moment. Then the sensors detected something strange. New ships were entering the system. But they were not military vessels. The incoming ships looked ordinary. Cargo carriers. Mining platforms. Long transport freighters. Thousands of them. The Carthel commanders were confused. Why would civilian ships enter an active war zone? On the command bridge of the Carthel flagship, a tall armored commander stared at the tactical display. Identify the vessels, he ordered. A moment later the report arrived. Terran civilian ships, Commander. The Carthel officers laughed. Humans are foolish, one of them said. They send merchants to a battlefield. The commander watched the approaching fleet carefully. Something about the formation felt wrong. Civilian ships normally traveled in loose groups. But these ships moved with perfect coordination. Their movements were organized. Precise. Almost military. Before the commander could speak again, the first Terran ships reached combat range. And suddenly everything changed. Large sections of the cargo ships began sliding open. Heavy metal panels folded away from their hulls. Inside those compartments were weapons. Railguns the size of city towers. Missile launch systems hidden inside cargo bays. Drone hangars filled with hundreds of combat machines. The mining ships activated their industrial lasers. The beams burned brighter than most military cannons. The research vessels deployed massive shield generators that expanded across nearby fleets. Within seconds, the entire Terran fleet transformed. The peaceful civilian ships had become a terrifying combat force. The Carthel fleet reacted immediately. Open fire. Thousands of enemy weapons ignited. But the Terran ships were already moving. Cargo freighters accelerated forward with unbelievable speed. Their powerful engines pushed them through the battlefield like unstoppable giants. Missile storms erupted from hidden launch bays. Railgun rounds crossed space like lightning. Entire Carthel cruisers exploded before they even understood what was happening. Mining lasers sliced through enemy armor as if it were thin metal sheets. Combat drones flooded the battlefield, surrounding Dominion ships from every direction. The battle turned chaotic within minutes. Council defense fleets watched in complete shock. These were not warships. Not officially. But they fought like the most advanced military force the galaxy had ever seen. Even the Carthel commander realized the truth too late. These are not civilian ships, he shouted. But technically, they still were. Every Terran vessel followed the exact wording of the Council law. None of them were built as warships. They were cargo carriers with industrial tools. Mining vessels with resource lasers. Research ships with experimental shields. The law had never banned those things. Human engineers had simply combined them. One by one, the Carthel warships began to fall. Massive cruisers exploded. Destroyers were torn apart by railgun strikes. Drone swarms disabled entire battle groups. Within less than 1 hour, the Dominion fleet at Velora Gate was collapsing. The invaders who had terrified half the galaxy were suddenly retreating. And the ships defeating them were labeled on every scanner as civilian Terran vessels. Across the galaxy, military analysts stared at their screens in disbelief. The Galactic Council finally understood what humanity had done. They had not broken the law. They had followed it perfectly. But they had also rewritten the meaning of it. And now the galaxy was witnessing the result. The day the rules stopped working against humans. And started working for them instead. The Battle of Velora Gate ended faster than anyone expected. For months, the Carthel Dominion had crushed every fleet that tried to stop them. Entire systems had fallen in days. Their warships were built only for destruction, and no one in the galaxy had been able to match them. But the Terran fleet had done something impossible. They had broken the invasion. Across the battlefield, burning wreckage drifted slowly through space. The remains of the Dominion fleet floated between asteroids and broken stations. The once terrifying Carthel armada was now nothing more than scattered debris. And in the middle of that silent battlefield were the human ships. Cargo carriers. Mining vessels. Research ships. According to every scanner in the system, they were still civilian craft. But everyone watching the battle knew the truth now. These ships were something entirely new. A Terran command signal spread across the fleet. One by one, hidden weapon bays closed again. Railguns slid back into armored compartments. Missile systems disappeared behind reinforced hull plates. Within minutes, the ships looked peaceful again. As if the battle had never happened. The remaining Council fleet slowly moved closer, still shocked by what they had witnessed. A large alien cruiser approached one of the Terran freighters carefully. Its captain opened a communication channel. The human captain appeared on the screen. He looked calm, almost relaxed, as if the battle had been nothing unusual. The alien captain hesitated before speaking. Terran commander, your ships, they are not classified as warships. The human officer smiled slightly. That is correct. But those weapons, those shields. Industrial tools, the Terran replied calmly. The alien captain had no answer. Because technically, the human was telling the truth. The law had banned warships. It had never banned tools. Far away, inside the Galactic Council chamber, the ambassadors were watching the battle recordings. The room that had once been full of confidence was now completely silent. Many of the same leaders who had voted to restrict humanity were now staring at the screen in disbelief. The council speaker slowly turned toward the human ambassador, Daniel Reyes. You planned this, the speaker said quietly. Reyes folded his hands calmly. We followed the law. The speaker looked frustrated. You turned civilian ships into military fleets. Reyes shook his head slightly. No. We turned civilian ships into very capable ships. Several ambassadors exchanged nervous glances. One of them finally spoke. So every human cargo vessel in the galaxy, Reyes finished the sentence for them, can defend itself if necessary. The meaning of those words spread across the chamber like a cold wind. Because there were millions of Terran ships traveling through the galaxy. Trade ships. Exploration craft. Mining vessels. Research carriers. Any one of them could now become a combat ship within minutes. The council speaker lowered his head slowly. We tried to control your military. Reyes nodded politely. And instead, the speaker continued, we created the most dangerous fleet in galactic history. Reyes did not argue. He simply said something that many ambassadors would never forget. Humans do not always win by fighting harder. He paused for a moment. Sometimes we win by thinking differently. After that day, the council quietly removed the Terran Warship Restriction Act. No one voted against the decision. No one even argued. Because the lesson had already been learned. You can ban human warships. You can restrict human weapons. You can write laws to control human power. But one thing the galaxy finally understood was this. You can never limit human creativity. And from that moment forward, every empire in the galaxy remembered one simple truth. Humanity did not just follow the rules. When necessary, they rewrote them.